With the recent release of the Snapdragon Windows PCs, I wanted to take a look at the only laptop you'll ever need in 2024, the M1 MacBook Air. How's it holding up? I'm Iggy the Tech Guy, and let's find out. The M1 MacBook Air can be had for $650 renewed on Amazon at time of this recording. That is for the 8GB RAM variant with 256GB of storage, and for most people, that's perfectly fine here in 2024, and pretty much beyond, to be honest with you, because most people aren't doing crazy extensive work, and that's why I think the M1 MacBook Air is the best laptop for most people in 2024, because it's so inexpensive and so within reach for most people that it's kind of a no-brainer, because not only do you get the everyday run-around machine going on social media, web browsing, word processing, all of those things, you can most definitely edit 4K footage on this bad boy, and you could even use the free version of DaVinci Resolve to get your work done if you wanted to decide to become a content creator or just post videos and edit videos for fun. This computer can do it all. Yes, with sustained workloads, you are going to have a bit of a bottleneck because it does not have a fan in it, but for a fanless laptop, this is pretty much all you will need. You don't really need much else in terms of power than the M1 MacBook Air has to offer for its price. Yes, you can get a Mac Mini, which is a desktop setup, which is a small PC, and that's wonderful if you want to be stationary. A Mac Mini may be a perfect choice as well, but we're talking about laptops in general here, and I think the M1 MacBook Air is a huge contender for you guys going here into 2024 and even into the future. So for most people, they're not doing a crazy amount of work. You're not the top YouTuber, and most people are not. If you were at that fringe case, you wouldn't be looking for a cheap laptop in the first place. You could afford to get the high-end laptops like the newer M3 series chips or the M4, even in the iPad Pro. So for the most part, yeah, we're talking about the main consumers out in the world. Obviously, us tech nerds, we do want to upgrade and have a little bit nicer things, and I do have a nicer laptop. I have the M1 Pro MacBook Pro 16-inch with the 120Hz mini LED display. It's beautiful, it's a great laptop, it's huge, it's functional, it's all of my work done and more. I have 16 gigs of RAM stock, so yes, that's wonderful, but for most people, they're gonna go in and they're going to do a lot of work, and they're not going to do a lot of crazy editing. I just want to put out there, I did do a lot of crazy editing with the M1 MacBook Air through my music video business, Mystery Music. Shout out my Mystery Music business. We're at about 1.48k subscribers on that channel right now. Shameless plug. But for the most part, we're looking at, I did a lot of work on this laptop alone with over maybe 50 videos edited in Premiere on this M1 MacBook Air when Premiere wasn't even native to Apple Silicon. So yes, there was long render times, but the actual editing that I could get done on this with 4K footage was wonderful, and it was actually very doable. I could still use this laptop for my YouTube business if I needed to. I don't see a problem with that. Yes, I do want to put a disclaimer that I have the 16GB variant here with 16GB of RAM versus the 8GB of RAM, and I do recommend that upgrade for most people if they are getting into heavier work with graphics and whatnot. But at that point, you might as well get one of the newer laptops anyway, and if you have a larger budget. But for the most part, you can get a majority of that work done in a video editor if you needed to. Yes, its only requirements are 8GB of RAM and DaVinci Resolve for free, so if you wanted to get started and eventually work your way up to a better laptop, this is the one to go for because it's so inexpensive. $650, at some cases a little bit less, that is a steal for a beautiful laptop such as the M1 MacBook Air. You're not going to find anything at that price point with this form factor, even today. It's beautiful. With that being said, I do want to jump into the build quality of this MacBook Air. The M1 MacBook Air is beautiful, and it's so crazy what you're getting for $650 if you purchase this device. It feels really premium in the hand, super lightweight and super thin. It does have a more wedge shape, as the newer MacBook Airs actually have a more consistent look along with the Pro series, so you are getting a more modern looking device, and you also get a slightly larger display. It looks a little bit nicer, but for the most part, you're getting this 13-inch display here, and it's beautiful. This display holds up really well color-wise. I think it displays colors very great, and it's just an amazing device through and through, from the outside chassis to the inside display. Yes, it's only 60 Hz, but So is the M2 MacBook Airs and the M3 MacBook Airs. Those devices also have 60 hertz, so you're not really gaining much when you go to those devices. You get a little notch in those ones, cool, you get a little bit extra side screen real estate. For the most part, you're getting the same workable area. So if you were looking for something that's going to be, you know, an upgrade, those things aren't really that big of an upgrade in my opinion. And also with those devices, they're plagued with the issue of having one channel for the SSDs. Versus the M1 series, they actually did dual channel for their even 256 gigabyte variant. So for those ones, you're going to have to go up in price stock just to actually get a similar experience SSD wise that these M1 MacBook Air and M1 MacBook Pros are boasting. They're about 50% faster in their SSD speeds. And when you're doing content creation or you're doing anything where you're changing media a lot, that is going to be noticeable for the device. When you look at actual like benchmarks, sure, they're beating it too, they're about, you know, so many percentages faster, and that's great, but when it comes to actual usage, when you're using all of the programs that are at your disposal on any of these laptops day to day, there's such a marginal difference in these devices until we reach rendering. Again, rendering should kind of be the one thing that the other devices do have, and I think is the main reason why you would want to upgrade to them. They actually have ProRes encoders in there, so that is a benefit, but for the most part, when you're actually editing, yes, you have to wait a little bit longer to render, but is that much of a deal breaker? I really don't think that it is, because it still changes your work habits from old devices, especially laptops. And when you're looking at the Windows side of things, it hasn't even been comparable until recently, and they're still fighting with bugs and all that stuff right out of the gate. And their coding from x86 to ARM has been quite a struggle, which is actually a little bit worse in my opinion than when they switched to the Apple Silicon chips in the MacBooks. Yes, you can get those devices and I'm sure you're going to enjoy them for the majority of your work, but this one works with everything out of the gate for actually a lot cheaper than what has to be offered on the Windows side of things in general. And I didn't think I would say that about an Apple product, especially here in 2024. I wasn't thinking that I was going to say that, but I switched to the Apple Silicon back when they first dropped back at the end of 2020 into early 2021, and I haven't looked back since. I loved my old PC and I loved using that, but switching to Apple Silicon for my creative work and just doing anything in general has been an amazing trip, let me tell you. I love everything about this laptop, inside and out. But before I continue to get sidetracked, I just love speaking about this laptop. The freaking keyboard on this bad boy is amazing. It's really clicky and tactile, and it's actually really awesome to use for long periods of time because it has a wedge shape and it goes a lot thinner towards where you would rest your palms and your wrists. So if you need to use this to write a long document such as an essay or something for somebody who's a student, this is a laptop that isn't going to fatigue your wrists and everything as much as some more modern laptops would. So in general, build quality, design of ergonomics, everything about this laptop is awesome. And I know that I'm sounding like an Apple fanboy, but for the most part, this laptop cannot really be beat in this category. I'm sure there are laptops that are great deals and have their strengths and versus their weaknesses. And for the most part, you're not getting that in the build quality department or even in the speed department. All around, this is the best well-rounded device for you to purchase with your hard-earned money, and I'm saying that because I can still use this device here in 2024 for all of my work currently. And to prove that, I'm actually editing this video on this M1 MacBook Air. So all of my other videos on this channel, for the most part, aside from my early work, have been edited on my M1 Pro 16-inch MacBook. And I just wanted to prove that you can also do all of that work in the free version of DaVinci Resolve on an M1 MacBook Air, and it would really be no problem. The only thing I'm really seeing a major difference in is the render speeds. For the most part, you can use Smart Cache and you can load and render all the effects and everything into RAM pretty quickly and use it, and it doesn't really hiccup that much. And again, I am using a 16 gigabyte variant here, so obviously that is going to be slightly better in that department, but it can still use RAM swap, and I'm sure if you get the 8 gigabyte RAM version, you are going to utilize that a bit more. But for the most part, it holds up more than adequately. It can get all of any of your work done. I don't really see a huge major flaw with this device going into 2024 here, and using it day to day. This device has been a pleasure to use. It feels amazing even going back to it from my nicer laptop, and that's something that I can't really say about a lot of other devices. Like, when you compare it to a Windows PC, it almost feels like not a fair fight, to be honest with you. Yes, you can get better quality gaming graphics on a Windows computer and a lot more titles and all that stuff. So if gaming is your thing, this may not be the choice, although it can game a little bit. You could put Fortnite on here, you could put a couple other games if you really wanted to, and play them at reasonable frame rates and at reasonable resolutions. And that's pretty cool for the most part too. So if you're a casual gamer, but you want to get content creation done, or you want to get word processing done, or if you want to browse the web and you want to listen to music and do all of those things, you can do that on this laptop. It's crazy to think that this laptop existed when it first came out, because it was such a game changer for me that it put in perspective that I did not have to break the bank to have a premium experience. And this was the entry-level device that they had, which is mind-boggling. It's such a good laptop. I'm still stunned at its performance here in 2024, even having used better devices. It holds up so well that, like, if I somehow lost that other laptop and I just had to go back to this, I wouldn't be that upset about it. Yes, I would like to save up and get a nicer laptop even than I have now, but for the most part, you're looking at the best well-rounded device around, and I can't say enough about this laptop. I'm just being really honest. This is the best laptop, best bang for your buck currently in 2024, hands down. If you have anything else that you think even comes close to the M1 MacBook Air, please put it in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts and just have everybody stewing, because obviously people are going to have their thoughts and opinions on why this isn't the choice, but for the most part, it can do what you need it to and more, and I think it will exceed your expectations when you purchase this laptop and use it, as long as you're not constantly throttling and constantly using it for long form work. Yes, there are use cases where you should get a better laptop, and there are use cases where you should get a Windows PC versus a MacBook, but if you're in the creative space and you're looking to really get started and you don't really know what to choose, and you're thinking about going the Windows route because you've done Windows for your whole life, I urge you to take a look at the M1 MacBook Air and just purchase one, because they are well worth the price. You can find them, like I said, refurbished on even Apple's website for the most part sometimes, and on Amazon. I'm sure you can find some pretty decent ones with low battery counts on eBay, but other than that, like, there's nothing else that I can really say. Like, all the cons about this are just newer versions of everything that was built into this device, and there's not really a huge glaring con for me, in my opinion. Like, everything is so well rounded with this device that I'm just absolutely stunned with what we were able to accomplish back in 2020. This coming on 4 years for this device being out just proves how well Apple Silicon has aged and how well you can do without upgrading to the newer Apple Silicon chips. So for Apple, that's pretty bad, but for the most part, as a consumer, I think that's amazing. This is newfound glory in its finest form. Getting an M1 MacBook Air will not disappoint you. There's so many things that go great for this, and battery life is also one of those things. I did not mention battery life earlier, but right now I'm about to talk about it because the battery life on this is even better than my M1 Pro MacBook 16-inch. I think this thing could easily last you days if you needed it to on light to medium use. Heavy usage, even editing, takes a long time to kill it. Hours and hours to try to kill this thing down. Yes, when you're going on the rendering side of things, the battery life will degrade quite quickly, but for the most part, if you're using this thing day to day, there will be days where you don't charge it, and you'll close it, open it back up, and it's still perfectly fine to use for you, no problem. The battery life is one of the things I actually really miss going to my newer laptop, because the battery life on this is just, it spoils you. And yes, it has fast charging. It's not as fast as the newer series, but still pretty decent in most aspects if you needed to. I actually lost the charger to this one, so I use a 65-watt charger to charge this bad boy up for the most part, and it goes rather quickly. The battery life and the battery health is amazing on this laptop. It's kind of been put through the ringer as of late because my girlfriend actually uses it. Shout out my girlfriend. She has helped me tons with this channel, and I'm trying to teach her how to edit, and I'm actually using this M1 MacBook Air because I gave it to her as a present. So she actually gets to use this laptop full time while I use my M1 Pro 16-inch. So she's a lucky girl. She gets an M1 MacBook Air just on the house for me, and I'm actually like envious of her battery life. This is one of those things where like I wish that the battery life was the same on my M1 Pro MacBook, because it's so amazing on the M1 MacBook Air, and I even heard on the M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch they have even better battery life than the MacBook Air. So if that's any testament, this thing is just like up there with battery life, and the only thing really topping it is that M1 MacBook, the Pro version versus the Air. And I just don't really see a non-benefit to this laptop for most people. Look, there are going to be people who this isn't powerful enough, and this video isn't for you. This video is for most people who, especially people who are just starting out, and they need something, and they feel intimidated by the price points of most laptops, even the current MacBook Airs and the iPads, of how expensive you have to go to get a decent one. This right here will get you by more than adequately in your day-to-day, in your content creation, in your gaming, in your word processing, in your web browsing, everything. This is an all-round best buy from me in 2024, hands down. So I know I went on a huge long rant about how this laptop is freaking amazing, but I can't say enough about it. So if anybody out there has any questions or concerns, or just wants to tell me that they think there's a better buy out there, please leave it in the comments and let's have a bunch of discussions, because I think personally this is the best buy. Don't at me, just kidding, you can. But I think it is hands down the best buy of 2024, and arguably into the future. I don't know how far in, but it still holds up really freaking well now, and I think that people would love to get this device here in 2024, and if you needed a reason to, this video should be it. Anyways guys, that's it for the video. If you really like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you dislike this video, hit the dislike button. If you really like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get more content from me. And as always, I'm Miggy the Tech Guy, and I am out. Peace.